The main raw material is clay or mud. Fafita prefers to collect and prepare the clay in the mud flats of her own island, as she has always done, instead of importing it, thus marking that difference in quality of the traditional Majarera pottery. In a container, Fafita puts a layer of the soil she has collected and gradually pours water over it. Due to their volcanic origin, Canarian clays absorb a lot of water, and that's why they shrink in volume when they dry. Upon receiving the water, the clay swells and crackles. It gives the feeling that the earth of this island is grateful for the refreshing water. On the top of the first layer of wet clay, Fafita spreads another layer of dry soil to dampen it little by little. For 2 or 3 days, this potter will let the clay rest in the container, soaking it once in the morning and once in the afternoon, until, as Fafita says, it becomes lovely by toughing up in the water. But this clay alone would easily crack when fired. To give it the appropriate consistency and to have fiber, as our friend the potter says, she mixes the clay with the special sands collected in the ravine. With great patience, Fafita kneads the pieces of clay and incorporates into the pasty mass the amount of sand dictated by experience. Canary Islands ceramics have not known the Arabic origin potter's wheel that is widespread in the pottery areas of the peninsula. Currently, Fafita has incorporated the wheel, even if it is only as the base of the piece, to facilitate its handling. One of the traditional Majarera pieces is the oven for baking bread. In this case, Fafita is going to mold for us with her hands a smaller type of kiln for decoration. For the clay to have plasticity and form a strand, as Fafita says, the potter has to work with the mixture well with her hands and then spread it on the base of the wheel. The main thing is kneading the clay, really kneading it. For all kinds of pieces one wants to make, it's quite labor-intensive. When the layer of clay at the bottom of the kiln has the desired thickness, Fafita burnishes the surface with a stone. The potter prepares some clay sausages and sticks them to the bottom of the piece. Gradually, with these strips, she will raise the wall of the kiln. This is to see if it's round, it stretches well all around. Then afterward we have to give it height. To ensure that the ovens bake the bread well, they must have a specific shape and height that the potter achieves while raising the wall. That's why she has to check the dimensions of the piece at every moment. As Fafita raises the wall and gives it the appropriate thickness with her fingers, with the kalau, or burnishing stone, she smooths the surfaces. The final height of the kiln must be the same measurement as the width of its base. At the halfway point of this height is when the potter must start narrowing each of the rings of clay to close the piece. This is done to know the height it has reached, to know how much more I need to finish it. At all times, Fafita checks that the kiln is narrowing evenly and has the appropriate proportions. To give the final touch to the piece and close its interior, the potter shapes the closing crown and applies it to the work. She cannot open the door because the clay is still too soft. Now, she'll have to wait until the next day for the clay to dry a bit. While the kiln loses moisture, Fafita is going to make a tofio, which is an aboriginal container used to collect goat's milk. Its construction is similar to that of the kiln, and at all times, the potter has to check and maintain both the dimensions and the thickness of the wall. With one hand inside and the other outside, we are already calculating the thickness. With her fingers, this veteran potter from Fuerteventura patiently builds up the clay to shape it into a container. Throughout this process, similar to the making of the kiln, the mouth or spout is the part that sets this piece apart from the others. Fafita gives it the shape it has always had, the one she learned from her mother-in-law when she decided to revive this traditional pottery over 30 years ago. Like all pieces, once finished, it will need to dry out for a whole day to begin smoothing its surface. Another traditional piece of the Majarera pottery is the asadera, and as the name suggests, it is used for roasting meat over the fire. Its manufacturing is similar to that of the tofio, but instead of having a round shape, its body is oval. But the main difference of the asadera is that this piece has a handle to hold it. After preparing a clay piece, Fafita embeds into it the piece and then smooths the surface. To continue with the process, our friend the potter will have to let the pieces dry out for a whole day. On the next day, when the tofio is thoroughly dried, Fefita proceeds to smooth its surface to seal all the pores and make it more impermeable. To achieve this, she wets the stone in water and rubs it all over the piece. In this slowest process, which will have to be done 2 more times, the potter takes the opportunity to go over the entire piece and remove the sharp edge left at the junction of the wall with the bottom. The final touch, or removing the edge, is done by passing a piece of leather over the rim or upper edge of the tofio. The kiln has already been dried out, and our friend the potter can now open the door that will serve to ignite the fire and make a vent hole for the smoke to escape. Fefita wets the excess clay from the door, kneads it again, and uses it for the rim or reinforcement of the door. Before applying it, she makes small notches on the surface to be attached. Once the reinforcement is attached, the second smoothing of the surface is necessary. For all pieces, the final touch for each smoothing is done with the leather. In the same way she acted with the previous pieces, Fefita evens out the wall of the asadera with a knife and then smooths the surface with the stone. To finish, as always, the final touch with the leather. On the next day, each of the pieces must be smoothed again, but this time without water and changing the direction of the strokes. If the strokes were vertical the previous day, now they must be horizontal to cover all the clay pores effectively. Before the pieces dry completely, they will still need a final smoothing with the stone and without water for each of them. In this final smoothing, when the clay sounds dry, the work is now ready to be placed inside the kiln. Before that, it needs to be exposed to the sun outdoors. The aborigines of Majorca fired the clay pieces without a kiln. They would place the finished pottery on a bed of firewood and cover it with more branches until it was well covered. Then they would set fire to the wood, and to remove the pieces, they would wait for the embers to cool down. Fefita has a kiln where the firing chamber is separated from the work to be baked. Her son helps her to place each piece in the kiln, dealing with the winds that whip the island. When the kiln is full of pieces, Fefita seals the entrance so that the heat doesn't escape. From this moment on, if the strong wind doesn't interfere, she can start the fire. As fuel to ignite the kiln, Fefita has to use all the shrubs that the meager vegetation of the island offers her. In the past, in addition to the tabaiba branches, she used dry camel dung for this purpose. The fire has started, and now she only needs to feed it so that the internal temperature gradually rises to reach the required degree for the pieces to be fired. The opening of the kiln's mouth allows Fefita to check the state of the firing at all times. It's not done yet because it's still black, smoky, it's still firing. When you see it here and it's black, it's firing. When it's clear, it's done. The process is slow. It will take 2 hours or 2.5 hours from the moment the kiln is lit until the pieces are fully fired. When the pieces acquire a light tone, the firing process is complete. Once the kiln has cooled down, Fefita can check the results of her work. At 72 years old, this potter is the most experienced on the Fuerteventura island. Just as she learned the craft through family lineage, today she wants to pass it on to her children and all those interested in preserving our traditions. Service dishes, asaderas, kilns, tofios, and many other pieces make up the repertoire of this woman who, despite the major crisis caused by the appearance of plastic and aluminum containers in the market, managed to preserve the essence of popular pottery on the island of Fuerteventura.